Hello, people. Welcome to Main Event Boxing Talk podcast number 4. How are you, Tom?
I'm very well, Nathan. I hope you are too.
Yes, I'm good, my friend. Right, let's kick straight off into it. Caleb Plant stops Vincent Feigenbutz in his defence of his IBS super middleweight belt. Did you see this fight?
I certainly did.
How good was the performance from Plant, do you think?
Well, we discussed this, I think, in the last podcast. I had watched the German fighter fight, and to me, he seemed heavy-handed and a slow, wide puncher. And we mentioned that Plant was just on a different level above him, boxing-wise. And Caleb did exactly what he was supposed to do. He kept him on the outside, picked him apart with combinations because he was slower and wide, and eventually that was it. You know, he beat him down.
Okay. I think obviously he was a fight he was expected to win anyway.
I agree.
Yeah, definitely. I think it was just a fight to make him look good.
Right. Well, you have to understand though that how do you pronounce his name?
Feigenbutz.
Feigenbutz was a very heavy-handed guy, but it seems like he was a little smaller than a super. He looked more middleweight, but he had very big shoulders and back. And I had seen him fight other guys, but they were stationary. So I knew Plant was going to be able to maneuver around him and time him. And Caleb did that. He looked good.
Yeah, I mean, from here, I think he should look to unify with the other champions if he can. But obviously, with different promoters, it's going to prove quite difficult to get that going.
Well, from what he was saying in an article that I read, he doesn't want to fight GGG now. It's not in his best interest. What he would like to do is fight Benavidez and unify the title and then be able to be in a position to ask for more money rather than, say, okay, I'm going to do it now. And what does he have? He has, March, April, 2 months to train, and in May. He doesn't have time to let his body rejuvenate and then have a good training camp. Yeah. And of course, that's always advantageous to Canelo. That's the modus operandi he had with Kovalev and other people. He strings them out or shortens them. So he works those angles, and I think the public are getting fed up with that. At least I am, anyway.
Well, I think a lot of people are.
Yeah.
Right. What you said in the Messenger, there was a subject where you said that Char was going to fight Joshua. Where did you get this article from? Could you tell me?
It was from Char's manager. He said that they were in negotiations, and if you look it up, if you put Char versus or AJ versus Char, I'll get you the exact article here. It says Anthony Joshua. Now this was April 20th. Well, wait a second. February, where is it? Heavyweight champion Manuel Char. Okay, maybe I had this wrong. Maybe I wasn't looking at the dates.
I think it might be that. That's a bit out of date.
I got suckered in by the dates here.
Okay.
It's still with him and White. They're still going back and forth, I think.
In other news, obviously, I was reading that the Povetkin White fight is 95 is like 80% done, so that announcement should be imminent very soon.
I hope so. I hope so because what is it? I mean, Char's got to fight somebody. Come on.
I was talking about Povetkin, against Dillian White.
I know, but it brought me back. I was looking here and it says Char wants to knock Dillian White out. It's like that's never.
So that could be the next fight. I believe
that would make sense.
That would make a lot more sense. And plus, it would give Dillian White another belt as well. So he could then drop the WBC and fight the winner of the Pulev Joshua. But obviously, there's a long queue. So I would have thought the regular belt would be good enough for Dillian White at this stage.
Right. But now that you mention it, what do you think of this with AJ and Pulev?
I think it's just a softer fight for him. You know, I think it's a fight he'll win comfortably.
Yeah,
I
I think.
don't think Pulev, the old Pulev, would have had a chance, but not the Pulev now that we see today.
I agree with that for
I
sure.
think he's a little bit too slow. Joshua will knock him out within 6 or 7 rounds.
I would go with that too.
Yeah.
So it seems like these guys here, except for Fury and Wilder, are actually AJ is taking the route of lesser resistance for the moment.
Oh, I mean, but let's be honest. If you could make an easy 12, 15 million fighting nobody, you're going to do it, aren't you? If you can, you know, and then take the big fights. You know, he had a big fight with Ruiz. You know, now he's just having a little break because obviously Pulev's a mandatory, so he's got to take the fight.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't think it's good for his legacy to keep fighting guys at that level.
No, but to be fair, he has fought, you know, some big names. So, you know, he's fought Klitschko and that lot. So he has got some good, you know, defences on his record. It's not like he's had it all easy, you know.
Well, that's true. His fight with Klitschko really impressed me that he got up off the floor the way he did.
And his loss to Ruiz proves what a good fighter Ruiz is, you know. So
yeah.
So I'm not going to take anything away from Ruiz or Joshua for that. You know, he probably needed a defeat like that.
You know, it doesn't bother me that a good fighter or a great fighter loses. And it shouldn't. I mean, really, because some days you're not at your best and you lose. And then you have to...
But his comeback has made me had more respect for him. So we know he can get beaten. We know he can come back and get the titles back. You know, we know he's got it. He's got the determination.
That's true. And that makes a great fighter, not the fact that he lost, the fact that he came back and won. You know, Archie Moore told me once that if he got knocked down, he would get up and, quote, knock the motherfucker out. That's what a great fighter does. That's, quote, verbatim from Archie. And that's what you're supposed to do as a champion. You know, if you get in trouble, you just got to come back and suck it up like Ruiz did. Ruiz sucked it up and came back.
I think Ruiz is, you know, he knows what he has to do to get his belt, to get back to where he was, you know. But anyway, we're getting off topic here. Let me move on to the next thing.
Sure.
Shane Mosley Jr. has joined Golden Boy.
Right.
I don't think much of this kid. He's got no talent, really.
I would agree with you. I mean, he's what, 16-3?
Yeah, I think he's about 27, isn't he?
Yeah, so where is he going, you know?
He's a domestic level kind of fighter. If he was in England, he'd be like British level probably, you know, or probably not even that.
Yeah. He's carrying on with the name of his dad.
I mean, it's not his fault.
No, it's not his fault, but it is his fault that, you know, if he doesn't win, if he doesn't train right.
I mean, he's got a target on his back the day he was born. You know, if your last name's and you're a boxer, you're going to get it, aren't you? He should have gone into music.
Yeah, something softer, right? I mean, boxing is not for the faint of heart. And, you know, I mean, the pressure to follow in someone's footsteps, you know, someone who was great, you know, like a Sugar Ray Leonard Jr. or, you know, Cesar Chavez Jr. or any junior. That's really rough to be able to come through it and be, you know, as good or better.
Floyd is an exception to the rule.
Well, Floyd had a hard life. You know, Floyd had a lot of years without his dad, where his uncle took over, and he had his mom who wasn't, who was a drug addict for a long time. So Floyd was fighting since he was a child, but he had that pedigree.
Well, I've got respect for him as a fighter. You know, I don't like him much as a person, but what he's doing in the ring is, you know, exceptional.
It really was exceptional, his boxing skill. I don't think, you know, this thing that he's went 50-0 makes him the greatest fighter in the world. I mean, look how long it took before Sugar Ray Robinson lost or Julio Cesar Chavez lost. Those guys were like, what, 80-0 before they lost?
Yeah, but to do what he did in the modern era of boxing is impressive. You know, when people are, you know, pretty impressive. Yeah,
and I don't think he ducked anybody. I never saw him ducking anybody. He fought everybody. You know, and he had a couple of hard fights that he had to get through, and he did. So I have the utmost respect for him as a fighter. As far, it seems that he's rehabilitated himself in terms of domestic violence, which I have to say that's good. I'm glad of that. We'll see, Mike Tyson rehabilitated himself, so let's keep it real and let's have peace. Hopefully these guys have peace with themselves. I think if you're not at peace with yourself, you're going to run into trouble like Devontae Davis is doing right now.
Oh, yeah. That's a completely different, it's you go the right path or the wrong path. It's simple, isn't it?
It is. It's very simple.
All right, let me see what's next. List. For the Tyson Fury fight, we have something dodgy going on here.
Okay, preach. Come on, tell me.
We have 3 American referees. No, sorry, American judges and an American referee, Kenny Bayless, who stops anybody at anything.
Yeah, Kenny is precautious, but we had didn't we have Jack the last time?
Yeah.
And Jack saw that Tyson was not out, Tyson Fury. So he gave him the count and he got up, which was great. So we'll see what Kenny does, but the idea is for Fury to stay on his feet this time. If he could stay on his feet, I think he could win a decision.
So we're going to go to my opinion of the fight. I think Wilder's going to win because Fury's going to have to knock him out to win. I don't see him winning any other way. Even if he wins on the judges' scorecards and outboxes him, they'll still score it a draw. Then we'll have a third fight. I just don't think, Tyson's got to really bring it to him. The odds are not in his favour. He's really up against it.
I don't know if I agree with you.
He should win, but I just don't think he's going to. I think if he gets knocked down, Kenny Bayless will stop it, or he'll get robbed on the score points. He really needs to knock him out to win.
Well, I've been watching both guys train, and Tyson Fury looks to be in much better shape this time.
He is, but I just think, carry on anyway.
No, go ahead. Say what you thought.
I think Fury may have used all his luck.
Well, I'll finish my train of thought then. He looks to be in better shape. He looks to be a trim around 250, and his legs look muscular. He looks really in good shape. Deontay Wilder has put some muscle on for this, which may slow him down. I think he's yes, and I think that he is trying. He's going to do what he tried to. He's going to try to do what he did to Luis Ortiz. Wait for that opening and throw the bomb. Now, if Fury can keep him backed up with those long arms, Wilder does not fight well backing up. And if he could pull him in rather than duck, then I think he has a very good shot. The thing is, who's going to learn the most from the first fight? Who stands to make the best? Yeah, who is going to learn the most? But I think it's going to be a great fight either way. I like both guys, and I could see Wilder winning as well. I'm just kind of like, do you know what the odds are on this fight?
No, but I know that it's probably in Wilder's favour.
You think so? I'm going to look it up. But it may not be. Let's see what they're doing in Vegas. What's the odds on? Betting odds. Here they go. Betting odds. Well, can't you just give them to me? It seems that it's 9-2. They're not really saying. I think the odds are going to change up until the time of fight time, I can't find it, but probably not until fight time will they have all that stuff on that. And the betting odds was 124 to win 100, while Fury was a 104 underdog. 100 to win 104, so it's pretty close. It's pretty close. We'll see. We'll see. You know, I'm picking Fury. You're picking Wilder. I think
don't
the
want
guy can.
to pick
What?
Wilder, but I'm just being honest. You know what I think is going to happen. So I want Fury to win, obviously.
Yeah, because he's from the
He's
UK.
British,
I
yeah.
understand that. The point is, I'll be happy whoever wins because I really love both fighters. I think these guys showing a lot of guts to fight each other and putting this on the line.
I think a Wilder Joshua fight is more marketable than the Fury Joshua fight worldwide.
What about in the UK though? I mean, I think it would
Joshua
be huge.
against Fury would be bigger than him against Wilder. Yeah. But
It would
worldwide, it would be.
I mean, I think they could fill a stadium there.
But I think the American UK dynamic is more has more sale value. I think based on that, on the rivalry.
Yes, but don't forget, Fury has a big American following now.
Oh, massive.
I mean, he won over a lot of fans. And they're going to follow. If he wins, they'll follow him, to fight AJ. They will be on his side to do that.
Yeah. But we have to say there is a big divide in support of this fight, along the racial lines as well, which I don't like to bring up.
I don't have a problem with that. I think, people identify with who they identify with for whatever reason.
Which is fine.
And both guys have, they both are, in a way right now, are very good with Deontay for what he does with his causes. And both guys, are very good right now in terms of their PR. So, but that's always going to be true, whether both guys were white or both guys were black. Some people are going to like this one, some people are going to like that one. But you can't get away from it. And it's also a point, where it was marketable in the past, the Great White Hope, and still is.
Yeah.
But in this case, we saw that, the Great White Hope could really fight. It wasn't like this guy couldn't fight. He could fight, and he was doing a good job against him until he got caught those 2 times.
But if we're talking lines, the top British fighters in the past have always been black, haven't they? I don't like to bring this up, but
Well, Henry Cooper wasn't back when he put Cassius Clay on
in the last 30 years.
Well, yes. Now, how many of you would know this better than me? I mean, Lennox Lewis did come from Jamaica, right?
No, he was born in England. But
I thought he came to Jamaica as a child.
No. He was born in West Ham, London. And then I think he went, and then at the age of 7, he went to them in Canada.
And what about Frank Bruno was born there, right?
No, he was born in England.
That's right. He was born there.
His parents came from Jamaica.
That's what I meant. He was born there in the UK.
Yeah.
And what about what's his name? Lewis, we got that. Frank Bruno was born there. There was one other guy. Herbie Hyde.
But he was born in Nigeria.
Right. But you see, I like to go with what Winston Churchill said. He says, I don't care where a man is from as long as he's an Englishman. Because you guys are great over there. Once a guy is there, he's an Englishman.
I think they could have treated Lennox Lewis a bit better in the 90s.
Well, yeah, especially with that draw against Holyfield.
Oh, yeah.
The first one.
But anyway.
Oliver McCall, he was in bad shape from Oliver McCall and from Hasim Rahman. It was good they didn't let those fights go on.
I mean, so moving away from the 90s, this fight is his biggest fight as probably Lennox Lewis against Holyfield, isn't it? If you're looking at British fighters against American fighters.
Yes, that's
This
true.
is, in 20 years. This is the real lineal fight for the World Championship, not Joshua fight.
Also, we had Lewis against Tyson, if you remember.
Yeah, but this was a decade gone of Tyson's prime, unfortunately, which we all knew.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, I think Mike Tyson is a happier guy now than he was then. From all the interviews I see, he seems to have found peace finally.
Yeah, it took him long enough. I'm glad he has. Right, let's see what's next. You put in the boxing talk thing. So
Well, we got Callum Smith, Billy Joel, and Caleb Plant turning down Canelo.
yeah, I can understand why they've done it. They want more money.
Yeah, yeah, and the short amount of time to get ready.
If you want, I mean, if I was Callum Smith, I'd want at least $4 million for that fight. You know, $3 million for that fight, 2 or 3 million.
Yeah,
To
I
get out
think
of bed
one.
for that fight.
Yeah, one was offered $1.5 million or something like
That's
that.
insulting to
Yeah.
Callum Smith. You know,
Yeah.
he's the #1 ranked super middleweight. You know, on paper.
Mm-hmm. Well, Benavidez is in there, and also the guy over there. What's his name?
Billy Joe
Son.
Saunders.
No, not Saunders. What's his name? Son. I think he came down to middleweight.
Eubank Jr.
Yeah, is he a middleweight or super middleweight now? Middleweight.
He's a middleweight
right?
now. Middleweight.
Yeah. Okay. He took himself out of that division.
He was too small for the super middleweight division.
Yes. Yes.
And he didn't hit hard enough.
So, who is Canelo going to fight?
God.
Which brings us to GGG and his injury, right?
Yeah, I heard about it.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like good timing. You know, he had a mandatory in April, and he went to Victor Conti's camp, and supposedly he hurt his calf, but Victor Conti told him to leave camp because he didn't do what he was told to do before he got to camp.
Yeah.
So maybe that had something to do with the injury, or maybe he's really not that injured and he's looking to slip in there. DAZN's looking to slip him in there to fight, to do the third fight with Canelo.
Yeah, it's a good fight, though.
Yeah. So, are you interested in in a third?
No, not really. No. Are you?
Yeah. Well, I think those were the best fights. Those were the toughest fights for Canelo. I mean, the closest he's ever come to getting beaten. And I thought he lost the first one.
The third fight, he would win comfortably now.
Well, if he could get down to 160.
I think he's a level above Triple G now.
Maybe. You know, it depends. I think Canelo is in a bad place right now. He's got to get a fight. Who's he going to fight?
But, I mean, he can't fight at light heavyweight because all the top guys will knock his head off. You know, the top guys.
Absolutely. But now he's got to cut weight and get down to 168 at least, right? Because they're trying to get him at 168 because it's too much to cut all that weight to get back to 160. So who is going to be his opponent? And it's getting to crunch time now. He's got to fight somebody. He's got that May 5th date lined up. That's his date. So who's going to step in there at 168? That's the problem.
Also, the problem is, I mean, even if he stayed at light heavyweight, he could have still had a successful career if he'd stayed away from the big punchers, you know, and just defended his title.
Well, yeah, if he stayed away from Gavoisic and Beterbiev and those guys, yeah. He would have been a second tier light heavyweight, if that makes any sense, you know. Yeah. But, you know, his ego and his what he says, you know, I'm looking for the best challengers out there. I want to fight the top fighters. Well, then, you know, fight him. Nobody's stopping him.
I think if he takes a loss at light heavyweight, his career, you know, it could affect his career badly.
Exactly. But, you know, he's tied up in this contract with DAZN. 168 is where he's going to land for this next fight. Who they're going to fight, you know?
I think he should fight someone like Caleb Plant. I think he'll destroy Caleb Plant.
Well, I think it would be competitive for a while, and then we'll see what happens. But if he fights Billy Joel, or if he fights, you think he would destroy Caleb Plant or Callum Smith?
I think he'll destroy Caleb Smith. I think he'd take out Caleb Plant, and I think he'll destroy Billy Joe Saunders as well.
I don't think it'd be as easy for him to take out Caleb Plant because of the movement.
Caleb Plant hits the hardest out of all those guys, doesn't he? You know, so that could be the problem.
But he moves. Now, the way to beat Canelo is with footwork. That's the way to beat him.
I think Canelo would outbox him. You know, he would know better than to get into a big war with Caleb Plant.
Well, I would like to see it. I'm sure you would.
I think Canelo would take him to bits. You know, Caleb Plant is a lot more basic than Canelo.
What do you think about Benavidez fighting him?
I think that would be very close. But I think
would be more fun.
I think Benavidez is at a different stage in his career. I mean, he's only 21, isn't he? So he's at a different stage of career. So chances are they'll never meet, I don't think.
That's true. And it's, it would be smart to avoid him for a while.
I mean, Benavidez is a Mexican-American, so it would, it'd be a massive fight if they did it on Cinco de Mayo.
Right. I think, but what about Billy Joe? I think Billy Joe could give him a lot of problems if he's in great shape.
He could do, but I just don't think I don't think he has too much in the power department for Canelo to worry about. But skill-wise, yeah.
Yeah, skill-wise. Yeah. Well, it's going to be interesting to see. I wouldn't be surprised if GGG and him do that date, the way things are looking now.
Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah. It would make sense. And no, they're keeping it quiet right now. Everything's quiet ever since that Moriata fight fell through. So we'll see what happens.
What I think will happen, right? There's another fight I wanted to discuss: Charles Martin against Joe Washington, which I think is going to be a better fight than the actual main event itself.
Really?
I think that could be an entertaining fight. Yeah.
I think it'll be entertaining.
But what I meant to say, sorry, it won't be better than the main event. That's a
yeah. I was like, that's why I said really.
Yeah, it's a stupid.
I mean, it'll be entertaining, but those guys are similar skill levels.
I think Charles Martin has a bit more than Joe Washington.
Yeah.
And I think Charles Martin has a better chin and he's more durable, and I think he's got better stamina than Washington. Washington's got a good power on him, but I don't think he has the skills to really trouble Martin. I think Martin would have started boxing for 12 rounds.
I could see it going that way myself. Are you going to watch the card over there?
I won't watch it live, but I'll watch it the next day, early on.
Excellent. Yeah, I know what you
mean.
In
England, we have to pay for it, so I'm not paying for it.
You got to get one of those boxes like we have over here in the States where you pay $5 a month and you could watch anything.
Well, we don't do that over here. It's tied up with BT Sport, and BT Sport is like £50 a month. £60 a month, and then you've got to pay 20 quid on top. So I'm not doing it.
But there's something called IPTV.
Yeah.
And it's you buy the box and you pay $5 a month and you could get everything that's broadcasted over the world.
The other option is obviously if this fight was on Sky, I have an app on my tablet and phone and computer, which is Sky Box. Obviously, you pay £20 for the one-off fight. That's it. You don't have to subscribe to anything. So I usually like it when stuff's on Sky. You see, and I get to see it.
Yes. Okay. And we're going to get our fix any way we can.
So in this fight, I can see the first 4 rounds, Washington winning. Then he'll do something stupid by, he'll try and go toe-to-toe with Martin, force him to fight, and then Martin, has got a good chance of taking him out.
Yeah, I could see that. It's going to be fun. Let's put it that way.
I mean, I'm not a fan of Charles Martin at all, but I think he brings more to the table than Washington. Whoever wins this could get a world title eliminator at least.
Yeah, I agree. And, do we know what the whole card is? Let's see.
Let me have a look. I've got it.
I'm looking here.
It's not a very good card.
Here it is, 3 hours ago. Let's see. Who's on this card here?
There's not a lot of people you recognise on it, is there?
Let's see who the card could. We have the card, please. One of the things I hate about the internet is they give you these teasers. And then you go there.
Yeah. Do you recognise any names on the card?
I don't see it yet.
I don't recognise anyone other than the main 4.
I don't see the card. Where is? Everywhere I look for it, it's not there.
I've got it on my phone, on my tablet. Let me pull it up. I've got the whole card here.
Okay, cool.
Isaac Lowe, who is a British traveller, will be fighting against Alberto Guerrero, who I've never heard of before. Isaac Lowe is a British level fighter. He's not particularly great, to put it bluntly.
All right.
So I I mean,
Oh, I got the card now too. Yeah,
it's weak, isn't it? For obvious reasons.
Well, all the money is going to the top. That's why. You know, they're getting the lion's share, so they're not going to. And they figure it's such a big fight, they don't have to have a strong undercard. You know, they just got to fill time.
It's a strange fight.
Really.
I mean, in Britain, when they have a main event, they usually put on fairly strong cards. In Britain, you know, when we do.
Right. Now, I recognize Fundora here and Navarrete and Martin and Washington. And Amir Iman, I think I've seen fight. Javier Molina sounds familiar. But the main focus here are the two fights on the top.
Yeah, I mean,
right.
Again, it's hard to get excited about the rest of the card, so I'm just going to watch those two fights.
I agree.
Let me see.
Hey, who's that girl you're talking to?
Oh, there's nobody. It was something to do with Tammy Loren.
Ah.
By accident. Right, so let me have a look at what is next on the agenda.
I think you got Dubois up there.
Dubois against Joyce will be now for the European and the British title.
Right.
Which is what I'm pleased about, because obviously Joe was meant to fight Mark Huck for the belt.
Right.
But that wasn't a good fight.
No.
You see what else is next.
I think this is a good fight. I think we discussed this before. I think we picked.
All we were mentioning was that this was for the European.
Oh, no. We picked Joyce. Wait a minute. We picked Joyce, didn't we? Not Dubois.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And I could see it going that way. It'll be a good fight, though.
Yeah. Just going to see what else is next, what we can discuss. Let me go to the news. There's not really a great deal of boxing news this week, is there? I mean, there isn't.
Well, this is a big show here, you know. We wanted to discuss Top Rank sale, didn't we?
Yes, yeah, let's go to that then. If you could tell the listeners what about the sale, Top Rank has been put up for sale.
Well, LaBeouf, who is the stepson of Bob Arum, is trying to cut a deal with, I think, a few of the different TV networks that are behind this, you know, all of them, to sell Top Rank. The way they're kind of structuring this like when the UFC sold themselves to some, I forget, some conglomerate, I don't remember the name, and they kept the face of Dana White, you know, as the face of the UFC, even though, you know, the people that owned it or the shares of it, I mean, Dana White made a couple of $1 billion. Didn't they offer that? It was a ridiculous sum of money. And I think they're doing the same thing. I mean, Bob Arum is what, 88 now or 86?
Yeah, 87.
87. So, you know, he's been the face of it. And it makes sense, you know, to do that. And then if they could still be involved and run it, but, you know, they don't have to worry about all of the money and the payments and everything. They could all help with that. So, I mean, now that boxing has become so international and we have all these different platforms, it makes sense. I mean, there's an article in the Business Insider, which is a good place to look. And there are 3 heavyweight companies that have talked to him about buying it. Top Rank, you know, it's one of the most powerful combat sports businesses. And, you know, he has a lot of affiliations with the hotels as well in Vegas. So the UFC sold for $4.25 million in 2016, right? And he is 88. He's not 87. He's actually 88.
Yeah.
And remember, he used to put a lot of Muhammad Ali fights.
Oh, in the 60s, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, him and Ali said he's never screwed me, and he'd never screwed Ali, as opposed to that.
What we've got to remember is he's gone through 5 eras of boxing. I mean, no one's ever done that.
Now, this is what he also has to sell. You know, I mean, he has Crawford, he has Tyson Fury, he has Nagoya and Nunyi. They're 3, you know, marketable fighters. Then he has intellectual property. He has Top Rank has footage of a prime Muhammad Ali and other fight material, which it leases. He has all of those fighters. Plus, he has debt-free Las Vegas real estate. He owns multiple buildings outright, including a gym near the Strip. Right?
Does his son get involved in it or not?
Yes, his stepson, does a lot of the business there. And he also, and who's been discussing the deal is a Hollywood talent agency, Endeavor, NASDAQ Telecoms from Liberty Global, and the service DAZN is talking with him right now. So he's trying to get a deal like UFC, right? What they had, 4 years ago, and still stay, the face of it. But it's a family business. He may be the face, but Todd DeBuff, his stepson, is the one who's the key driver for the company's broadcast deal.
So will he take over the company when he does?
He was the one who organized the ESPN Plus deal as well as its global facing strategy. So, he's the guy behind the scenes.
So he's the heir.
He's the
heir apparent.
Yeah, but there's other people involved, and the UFC did very well with this. So, if you're going to invest that much money in an enterprise, you're going to keep the same people because they know how to do it, right? And DeBuff, scored a great deal, 7-year deal with ESPN. So they're doing well. And he's always been with ESPN when it was a fledgling company. They used to be here in the States, Top Rank Fights every Friday night on ESPN. And that was Bob Arum. He used to put on, up-and-coming fighters back then, and there were some great fights. And then it went to ESPN2, and now it's ESPN Plus, and so on and so forth. And so they have a good model that they could sell, right? And Top Rank has a lot of elite fighters, and they have a lot of up-and-coming.
It's interesting, isn't it, how it all works?
So there you go.
I'm surprised Bob's still alive, let alone still operating his company.
Well, look who he has. He has Lomachenko, Crawford, Ramirez, Inouye, Josh Taylor, Beterbiev, Teofimo Lopez, who's a strong and coming up, who just won the title, Shakur Stevenson, Tyson Fury, Michael Conlan, who's going to be a champ from the UK, Ireland. Zayas. I mean, these are all good fighters. So, they can make some noise, and it's a good brand. It's a very good brand, and there you go. So I think that it's possible that they could pull this off.
Top Rank, obviously, they're not the most powerful promoters in the world,
They hold their own with PBC and other people. They hold their own. He keeps his guys busy. He keeps them making money. But don't forget, PBC now, they're only they're needing other people to fight because only their top guys, have beat themselves out. You have Spencer who lost. You have Spence who beat Porter. Now, who's Porter's going to fight? Danny Garcia again? Danny Garcia's going up to 154.
The problem with the PBC is they were at one time they were doing these silly shows, giving people ridiculous money. It was never going to last.
Right. But now they have to step out, those champions, and fight other champions from other organizations in order for them to,
what's his name? Heyman only likes to have in-house fights if he can help it.
Hey, look, you can't knock Al. Al has made a lot of money from
he's
guys.
Done.
But the public, they actually need opponents for their champions to fight because they're cleaning each other out. That's the problem.
That's the problem, yeah.
Yeah. So this is why it's good that Wilder and Fury are fighting, because isn't Wilder on the PBC?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's great. So if they could do business, that whole thing with Floyd Mayweather and the Manny Pacquiao, that was a problem because Floyd hated Bob Arum because Bob Arum didn't work with him the way he wanted to. So he went off and started his own company. And then he was saying basically, Arum could go F himself. Right? So that's why he strung out the Pacquiao thing for so long, because he just wanted to stick it to Bob Arum. But eventually money talked, right? Now it's got to talk. They got to fight. And Eddie Hearn's in the same position. He can't keep fighting AJ and his top fighters with, just guys that are mediocre.
I think, obviously, boxing is changing, it's evolving all the time.
Yeah.
With Eddie Hearn, who will still be promoting in 20 or 30 years' time, He is the Bob Arum in 30 years.
I think I welcome all these different guys as long as the top fighters match. And then we find out who really is the best. As you and I spoke before off the air, like Tyson in the beginning and fought one time 15 fights in 1 year. And then like Sugar Ray Robinson fought 30 in 1 year. These guys used to fight and then take a week off and then come back and fight in 3 weeks. Sometimes if they knocked the guy out fast, they'd fight again in 2 weeks. They stayed in shape by fighting. That's how they stayed in shape, and they were making a lot of money that way. And Jake LaMotta, when he trained, he didn't do standard training. He would just spar for 15 rounds. He would be sparring all the time. That's how he stayed in shape. So taking a year between fights when you're a champion, I understand there's just so much promotion involved to promote these things for bigger money. But you lose the glamour. You lose the best guys fighting the best guys. And I think they need to take this into consideration because the average fight fan, they're getting bored of it, I believe. So it's a different time, and I really am in support of fighters making as much money as they can. But sometimes you just got to fight the other guy who's really great. That's it.
I think the problem is, you in boxing, you can't stay loyal to anyone. There should be no loyalty in boxing.
Well, yeah.
Because it counts for little, really. And, if you're mate, we've seen it happen so many times.
Yes. And now it comes down to following the money. I think it always had that, but look at Sugar Ray Robinson. He became his own manager. And he was a tough negotiator. And there was one fight where he refused to come out to fight unless they added like another $10,000 to his purse.
Yeah. But the thing is, let's look how he ended up there.
Well, yeah, because didn't know when to stop. That's the problem, Nowadays, fighters, if they're smart, they sock away a lot of that money. How much money did Sugar Ray Robinson make in his whole career? What, about $2-3 million? Maybe more. I don't even know. I'd have to look it up. But he went through that.
Be about probably 10 million or 40 today's money, if not more than that.
Yeah, but let me see. Sugar Ray Robinson earnings. So he had a net worth equal to $500,000 at the time of his death. Sugar Ray earned an inflated adjusted equivalent of $30 million from that's adjusted. Crazy. But he was broke by the late 60s because, 30 million. Now 30 million is good, but
when he fought Randolph Turpin, he was out partying every night. He didn't even train for that fight, I don't think.
And he actually paid for it. Turpin put a beating on him.
And then he won the rematch because he trained properly.
Yes. Plus, it was a bigger gate in Madison Square Garden. Turpin had to come across the pond, right? And then he got knocked out.
We know what happened to Turpin as well, but anyway, that's a different.
Yeah, well, that was a shame.
His family actually live about 20 miles from where I live. But what I'm saying is all his family, you wouldn't know who they were because they don't like to talk about him. His daughter, who's alive now, when he died, he held his daughter in his arms when he died.
Right. Well, it was too bad. And Randy, if you watched that first fight, right?
Great fight, yeah.
Wow, he really came after it. It's a shame he committed suicide. But, a lot of fighters, especially lately, we've had about 4 or 5 fighters die young, 60 or below, from various things. I think some of it has to do with, the way they trained or taking too many shots to the
I
head.
think the problem with boxers is once they leave the limelight, some of them don't know how to handle it.
It's true. I mean, Mike Tyson talks about that. He says, all of a sudden, you're 32 years old and your career is over. And then what do you do with yourself?
But I mean, he's done well. He's one person Tyson Fury should look at in the way how to overcome them.
Well, it was an interesting interview I saw, on Mike Tyson's show that I put up on Main Event, where they talk about stuff like that. That's a very interesting one. They talk about I think was it before or after? No, they talked about the fight after the first fight, and he talks about it before the Wallen fight. And Mike and he, they get into it. They're
very similar. I think they're very similar in the way they think as fighters, and they can relate to each other.
They can, but they don't in other ways. They don't. They disagree on a few things in terms of like Tyson Fury won't take any drugs anymore. He won't smoke marijuana. He does nothing but train. That's his drug.
That's good.
Yeah. And Mike, of course, right now, he's promoting. He smokes a lot of pot, which maybe in his case is helping him, so he doesn't. Yeah. He doesn't go. It makes him peaceful. Whatever.
To be honest, I'm surprised Tyson didn't get killed like 20 years ago. I'm surprised he's still with us. To be absolutely honest.
And I think he's surprised too. He'd be the first one to say that himself. He thought about suicide. That's what they had in common too. A couple of times thinking of suicide and doing it. But I'm glad to see both of those guys, are okay.
Yeah, I mean, Tyson Fury is an inspiration.
Well, yes, as long as he stays. To me, he is as well. To come back after all that length of time and be that competitive against Wilder, that was great. And to get over his demons the way he did, and to be honest about it, I think. And he's also a pretty. He's like all fighters. He's a contradiction. He has a morality that he clings to, but then again, he says things that are like totally opposite of what
he's funny.
He is very funny. He could be a comedian. He's very funny. But, and I think as we're approaching fight time, I've been watching some of the pressers, and I could see he's getting annoyed with Wilder. Wilder's getting under his skin.
He wants to try and avoid that if he can. It's not a good look for
him. Wilder is trying to play with his head. That's what he's trying to do. So we'll see what happens with that. We'll see whose head gets knocked off in this. But I'm looking forward to it.
See if there's any more news.
Well, there were some other things there, if you care to discuss them.
Yeah, let's discuss them.
We were talking about Shane Mosley Jr.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, really.
He's not going anywhere.
Well, he thinks he is. And
not good enough.
It's got to be tough, It's got to be tough for when you're a junior, like a Chavez Jr., a Mosley Jr. What juniors ever really made it well except Floyd Mayweather Jr.?
God.
Wilfredo Benitez, was he a junior?
I believe he was, yeah. And also God, who was it? Vernon Forrest.
Right. But who else? Joe Calzaghe, he wasn't a junior, though. His father was a fighter.
No, his dad was a trainer, but his dad didn't fight at any sort of high level. He was like probably, very low domestic level.
Right. And Joe Calzaghe, a lot of people forget about him, but...
I've never forgotten about him. I know
he was amazing. He was one of the greatest fighters out of the UK.
Best fighter I've ever seen, period. I think he would have beaten Andre. Actually, I'm not sure he would have beaten Andre Ward, isn't it?
That would have been a great match, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Tough as nails.
I would have said Calzaghe because I think he's a lot tougher than what Ward was, physically and mentally as well.
Well, it would have been great to watch, I'll tell you. I think Andre Ward would have had a break down his body, to really get to him.
Thing with Ward was, he didn't have a fan-friendly style at all, whereas Kawasaki did. His style was more exciting to watch.
Well, yeah, he would go in and, when he would stop moving around, he'd go in and mix it up and then, bust out again. And he could fight you from the inside and the outside, but his hand speed was so good. Everybody thought Lacey was going to bomb him out. Remember that?
Yeah.
And Kessler was going to bomb him out. And then Hopkins was going to school him, and it never happened. Absolutely. And then, of course, he caught Roy Jones later in his career, but still.
I mean, he retired at the right time.
I agree.
I mean, if you're getting dropped in the first round, he got dropped in both fights, didn't he? Against Hopkins and Walton Jones in the first round.
I don't remember, but all I remember is if he did get
he got dropped by Hopkins and he got dropped by Jones, I believe.
Well, he got up and just, gritted his teeth and went on.
For me, his best performance was against Jeff Lacey.
That was pretty wild. I saw
Mikhail Kessler.
Yeah, Mikhail Kessler too. But again, when people talk about great fighters from the UK, some people forget about him, and I don't think you should ever forget about him.
Because he's stayed out of the public eye. He's not really involved too much. He trains a couple of people at his gym.
Yeah. Well, I had a question off this topic for you.
Yeah.
What do you think about Spike O'Sullivan dropping down to 154?
I don't think it makes any real difference. I don't think he's got that much ability anyway, to be honest with you. He's British level.
Yeah, I don't think it will make that much difference either. He has some power. He showed power, but he just kind of fades in the later rounds.
Problem with him, he's a good talker. That's how he gets all the big fights. It's nothing to do with his ability, talent.
Mm. Well, he is a bit of a gatekeeper, I think, at this point.
I mean, he lost to Chris Eubank Jr. about 3.5 years ago, or 4 years ago. In 7 rounds, he quit on his snob. He got knocked out by David Lemieux in 1 round. I don't even think he'd be European level. Spike O'Sullivan.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to make any difference, to be honest with you, him going down there.
Let me see.
Unless he fights some easier fights.
Have you heard of a fighter called Isaac Chamberlain?
I heard of him.
He is a fighter that lost a few years ago, about 1.5 years ago, to what's his name, the British Lawrence Okolie. And he's signed with Mick Henderson. He's signed a deal with Channel 5.
I think I saw that fight.
Right, basically, with him, I don't rate the guy. I think he'll win a British champion, but I don't rate him as anything higher than British level. Well, and everyone's been raving about him. I just don't see the talent. He's good, at British level, but not at world level. He'll never be a world level fighter like Okolie.
Mm. Well, change the subject here. I just seen on the news here from yesterday is that Canelo is interested in the 3rd GGG fight in September.
I just don't see. I mean, I'd like to see it, but again, I just don't think it makes any sense. Do you know what I mean? Unless if the money's there, if people want to see it, then we'll see it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but I just don't think it proves anything if he beats them again. Yeah.
Right. Well, yeah, GGG will be 38 by then.
I mean, GGG's good. He's got his world title back. He should just look at retiring soon.
But look at the other fights for Canelo. They're all dangerous. Light heavyweight, Bivol, Gvozdyk, forget it, right? Any of those guys. He's not going to fight them. Or middleweight, you have Jamal Charlo, Andrade, or David Benitez. I mean, Andrade could go up to 168.
Yeah.
Charlo could go up to 168, right? Or Jamel Charlo, or Callum Smith, or Jean Pascal. He's not going to fight any of these guys. GGG, he probably figures if GGG, wants to come up to 168, he'll fight him there. And I don't know if that would help GGG to be at 168 or not, but GGG slowed down a lot. So
he's not the fighter he was.
Right. So he's got to get somebody in there for his May 2nd fight.
I think it will just be a voluntary or some sort of warm-up fight.
Well, I think his best bet is Billy Joe or Callum Smith. I think he should stay away from Plant.
I mean,
anyway, we're covering ground, but there it is. You know, one day ago, Canelo says he's interested in Gennady Golovkin, I guess in September. So that would mean Gennady would have to give up his middleweight championship and not defend it.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, again, he's holding a lot of belts hostage that he doesn't need to hold.
That's right.
The regular belt he holds.
That's what I agree. I'm sorry, I had espresso. That's why I'm talking so much.
Okay, that's fine. I'm trying to think anything else on your mind.
In boxing, well, what's happening? Let's look at what's coming up, because we got some good stuff coming up, I think. Let me look at the boxing schedule here.
We've got the Kalnacki card coming up in about 2 weeks. Kalnacki against Hellenius card. There's a few heavyweight fights on there.
Well, we also got Mikey Garcia versus Jesse Vargas on February 29th, next Saturday. And I think Mikey Garcia should take that, don't you?
Oh, definitely, yeah.
And you also have Dingunum versus Melly out where you are, right?
Who?
Danny Dignam.
Yeah.
Dignam, right? Versus Melly. And Scott Quigg versus Joan O'Carroll. Sky Sports. That's March 7th. And Kawanaki Helenis is on March 7th as well on Fox. And who else? You have Kirkland coming back on March 14th. James Kirkland.
I think it's coming back at 154, I believe.
Yeah. And Shakur Stevenson is coming up in March. Miguel Mariaga. That'll be a good one. Michael Conlon versus Belmar Presidio. So there's some good stuff coming down.
We're still waiting on an announcement for Derek Chisora against Usyk. I think that fight might be dead.
Yeah, maybe. But we have Beterbiev versus Fanlong coming up on the 28th of March.
For the IBF light heavyweight belt.
Yeah, there's some interesting stuff in Dubois and Joyce in April.
Let me see what else is coming on. I'm just going to look on some more news quickly. Give me a second. We'll go to somebody discussed something on the YouTube video the other day. Let me have a look. See what else there is. See on this one. Give me a second. Not that one.
Well, while you're doing that, I got into an argument with one of your mates over there in the UK. On
who was that?
Website. I'll tell you it wasn't a bad argument. It was a discussion about who would they rate, as top heavyweight champions.
Was it on Main Event or was that on a different site?
It was on Main Event. Where was it here? I'll tell you in a second. But it was very funny because this guy was talking about, how Rocky Marciano fought these guys who were, over the hill, 32 and this and that. And, he didn't know that I had trained a little bit with Archie Moore, who Rocky fought in his last fight. And Archie Moore thought he could beat him. But what happened was I reminded him that Archie, that what's his name? Marciano didn't start boxing until he was 26.
Jesus.
26. And he won the heavyweight title and was undefeated against guys. Yes, they were older, but they had so much more experience and he was losing. He had a broken nose and a gash when he connected with Jersey Joe Walcott and put him out. Jersey Joe Walcott was beating the piss out of him.
Jesus.
For 13 rounds until he connected. And that's what happened, And a lot of these people don't realize that he was awkward, but the punching power. Michael Allen, that's who it was, Michael Allen. And was on somewhere else. It was on a different forum, but he was from England.
Okay. We're more or less at the end of our podcast. I'm going to speak to you after we've stopped filming.
Hey, thank you so much, Nathan. It's a pleasure as always.
We'll be back next week. Stay on the line anyway.
Thank you, Nathan. Goodbye.